huge fan of this guy. Have long been just an admirer from afar. And when Aaron and Jason, we got to the off season of the NFL season, we said, let's have a lot more guests who aren't necessarily NFL coaches or players, general managers. Who do you want? And I said, I want XYZ. And one of the names was David Cross, who I just am a huge fan of. And sure enough, I was blown away. We got an email response back saying, yeah, David Cross is willing to join you. Guys, actor, comedian, just a long time guy who's been entertaining you for years. David Cross, welcome to the Peter Schrager, the Season with Peter Schrager podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, usually it's actor, comedian, bon vivant. So if you want to add that, maybe go back and,
I think that's what I ultimately want to do with my life. Like, I want to be able to say bon. And what do you think? Just lunch, see a show at night, just go to a gallery. Like, what is the life of a bon vivant, you think?
It's a lot of air ballooning, and it's a lot of charity work for animals with only 3 legs. And, I'm really deeply ensconced in the fashion industry. I do just cuffs. I do a lot of different cuffs, and I only do cuffs. And it's just all it's crazy. It's all over the place, but it's a tough but enriching lifestyle.
It is. It's good.
Yeah.
Look, your career goes through obviously Arrested Development and your stand-up career, but I started with Mr. Show, and that's where I think Saturday Night Live was always there, but then when Mr. Show came with you and Bob Odenkirk, it totally broke the mold. And I think anyone who's a fan of comedy and comedians today, especially in the sketch world, will point to that as such a groundbreaker. Do you still get that on? I mean, do you get that being stopped for you? Like, do people still stop you, Mr. Show, or now we're so many years removed where you don't get that as much as you used to?
Oh no, sure. Like, I mean, it's all over the place. Some people have no idea about Mr. Show. Don't even know it existed, but they know me from these other things, and other people know Mr. Show, but don't know the other things. So it all depends. But I still definitely get a lot, and I'm on tour currently, and so meet a lot of people who are bringing in kind of Mr. Show
mementos.
Yeah, minutia ephemera, I guess is the right word. Things that I've forgotten all about, like, hey, can you sign this, weird hockey stick model thing I made? It's from the whatever sketch. I'm like, I don't remember. Well, sign it, bring it over.
I listened to Odenkirk had his memoir that came out last year. I listened to the audiobook and I loved it. And he takes us through the origin of that show and this like HBO and them taking a risk on you guys. Can you take us through it from your lens? Like, here you guys are obviously established sketch guys and you've got different paths, but to come together and be given that kind of platform on HBO at that age, what was it like?
Well, I mean, it was amazing and life-altering, and I was not nearly as established as Bob was. Bob was on SNL briefly, and then he was a big part of the Ben Stiller show as an actor and a writer, but I was just a writer, and I was brought on midway through. And Bob and I started working together, just doing shows in L.A., just, with our friends, for our friends, with no... nothing, we didn't have an eye towards the future. Bob did eventually more than I did. I was still like, well, let's get drunk and have fun. And Bob's it was more focused and then we were doing these shows and they were clearly very, very successful immediately. Like, people in the audience really liked them, and it started to become a thing where it was felt like an event, like you wanted to go to these shows when we put them on. And then Bob, through his agent, or his manager, Bernie Brillstein, we started bringing, and also there was a little bit of buzz. So
yeah,
ABC is there and HBO's coming. And
set the stage for us. Is it like one of these like small clubs? Like, I know that Luna Lounge is like a big thing that everyone talks about. Like, is it like one of those like small cafes and you guys are doing it a little underground and then all of a sudden, why is Lorne Michaels in the crowd? Like that kind of deal?
It's even better than that. It was this place on Sunset right off of La Brea called the Diamond Club. And it was this cheesy, like super cheesy Hollywood club where, it's like half tourist people or people who just moved to LA who were way too much makeup and cologne and stuff, and then half like Russian and Eastern European and Armenian dudes and like way, just that kind of crowd. And then so there's this club, right? It's like a disco,
Mm-hmm.
um, dance club, and in the back, like if you walk through this thing while everybody's dancing, whatever, there's a side room, and it probably had a little stage, and I think it held, I'm going to guess at the most it held maybe 120 people at tops. And that's where we started doing these shows. There was a guy named Dave Rath who was, now he's a huge big time manager, but he was a huge fan of comedy and very helpful and manager at the time for all kinds of like people that are very famous now that and most of the people in that scene. And we, as I said, we were just doing shows with each other for each other, and we would all have a different night. And we were a very tight group, and there was everybody from, and a lot of musicians too, so like Maynard Keenan and Jack Black would be hanging out, and we all played with each other, and so it was just a weird because you had to go through that other
The Eastern European nightclub.
the little room in the back, and it was really funny, but it was cool, and it was like we got a space and we just did these shows.
You put these shows on, and we've had Paul Rudd on this podcast, and I've gotten to know him just living in the neighborhood, and he talks like with great lore about those years in LA and like going into being told, hey, Tenacious D are performing at this place at this time, and like just the entire everyone who was anyone would be there, and it was like you're going to see it. That was kind of the buzz around Mr. Show as well. And then HBO says, we're going to give you guys a program. Like, what was that like? We're going to go and do this in the home box office after, whatever show was on before you. I don't know, Sex and the City or Dream On, whatever else was on at the time.
You know what? I think it was Dream On.
Brian Ben.
It was, there wasn't a whole lot back then. And we were part of their, the comedy block with, Chris Rock, and there's some other stuff. And they said to us, they were very specific about, just do, we don't want TV. We don't want regular stuff that's going to be, we don't want SNL. And we were not interested in that kind of thing at all. And they encouraged us to do what you want to do. And in 4 years, we only got one note that we had to take, kind of a standards and practices note. That was it. And they were very, there's a completely new regime there now, but the people that we were working with that ushered us in were really helpful, really amenable. And again, it was a cheap show to make. We barely got anything, and we made it look better than it actually should have looked for the budget we had. And we were Friday at 12:30 in the morning or something like that. So we didn't have to do much to attain success for that kind of slot at that time with that budget. And, we were critically successful, and that's kind of all they wanted. So it was a good deal, and it was great.
The Arrested Development gig, the story that is like urban legend or maybe true, you can confirm it, is that you were dating a young woman and you got this audition out in LA, and you said, I'll go for one day, but this girl's in New York. I'm not going to be moving my life out to LA. I'll try out for Arrested Development. I'll just do it, see where it goes. You get the job, and the rest is history. Tell us really the story and what really went down, and when you walked into, is that accurate or no?
It was, so the context to it was I had been in LA for 9.5 years. I moved there from Boston, and my joke, which was based in truth, was like, I moved to LA to make enough money to move away from LA. Which is, I eventually, after being there for 9.5 years, and I had a bit of a pause in work, and I realized, because I'd been saying for years, like, I want to get out of here, I want to go to New York. and uh, and I had this break where I had nothing coming up, and I was like, I don't leave right now. I'm going to wait here another month, and then another job will come, and I'll be here for another 2 years. So I took this opportunity and moved to, and I didn't have a lot of possessions. I still don't. I never did. But I moved, put all the stuff in one of those little U-Haul
Yeah.
things, moved to New York, had a great time being stable in New York, and doing stand up and stuff. And then I met this woman who we had a really good relationship, and it eventually lasted for like 3.5 years. We're still friends, and our kids play together. But we were in the midst of it, and I got an offer for Arrested Development, and I didn't even look at the script. I wasn't interested. I was like, "There's no way."
No audition, nothing. They offer it you straight up. Mitch
Yeah,
Hurwitz is like, "You're our guy."
initially they wanted me to look at Job, and I read the script, and I did not have a handle on Job at all. And once you see Will Arnett,
Yeah,
like, oh, of course,
he's born to be him. Yeah,
and I did not have a handle on it. But Tobias, who was meant to be a part time. I'm forgetting whatever the phrase is, but not a full time
guest star.
Yes, yeah, like a 6 out of 18 episodes kind of
Yeah.
thing, which already was appealing. Like, oh, I'll just fly to LA,
Mm-hmm.
knock one or two episodes out, and go home. But also beyond that, I just immediately knew who that character was, and had a sense for it. And I said, "Can I?" And I was talking to Mitch Hurwitz and the Russo brothers, the directors, and we were talking on the phone because I said, I'm not. I don't, I'll do it if it's part-time. I just can't. And they were like, yeah, that's great. That's meant to be part-time. And then I came out to shoot the pilot, which was, you always take longer to shoot the pilot. And that was probably like a 10-day shoot. And I realized around the third day that it's really something special. This is just from the pilot, and the cast was amazing. The dialogue was great. It was fun. They let us play around and improvise. And I called my girlfriend from the little bridge thing that's in the Beverly. What's across from the Beverly Center? The Beverly Connection, right?
Yeah.
The one across the street is the smaller one. I was up on this little bridge thing, and I called her and was like, "Hey, so good news, bad news." And I basically said, I have to do this show. And, it's really special. And so, I think I could speak for everybody that we all felt that thing when we were shooting it. Like, this is something special.
I mean, such a cool cast. And obviously Sarah is a kid at the time. And, you got obviously Bateman and Arnett and all of them go through it. It's every story you hear. And I know that Bateman obviously has the Smart List podcast where he talks about it often with Arnett. It's like, it seems like it was just a really fun time and you guys had a blast. And isn't that the best working environment you could possibly imagine? Just a fun experience working. That's
for
best.
Sure. And I'm at the place, and I even before I was at the place, I guess I just always had the attitude, I do not want to work on anything that's not fun, unless it's going to pay a crazy amount of money. But my life is too short. I just want to have fun. I want to be able to play around and be in a set there's laughter and joy. And that set always had, there was a lot of laughs on that. And it was a really fun, privilege that a lot of actors don't get to have,
I look at that show, and again, now you've got Mr. Show, and you've got Arrested Development, and you're stacking these huge hit shows that everyone loves. Cult favorite, one of them. The other one is a massive mainstream favorite, all this stuff. And yet you're still on the road, and you still do the stand-up comedy, and you're on tour right now. And I'm sure the audience comes for all of it, and they come from all corners. But the life on the road, I mean, you've got your father. Like, it is a grind, and yet you're still doing it. Do you have a passion for it, or is this one of those things where you're like, it's just in my blood that I've got to be on the road? It's just what I do. I'm a stand-up comedian.
It's both. I had this revelation not too long ago. that I was talking to my wife about it. Like, I realized I do all these things. I write, I act, I produce, I direct, I do stand up, but um, I realized like, oh, I'm a stand up. Those other things are fun things to do, but I think it I felt it when I had to cancel the last tour that I was going to do because of COVID.
Uh-huh.
And the set was all ready, and I was looking forward to going out, and then had to cancel it, and it hit me more than I expected it to. It
Interesting.
was really disappointing, really, and I miss it. And I'm out on the road now, and as you said, it's a grind, and
It
it
is.
kind of, you know, I used to go out and I have the whole family, or before I had a daughter, just go out and have a tour bus, and it was easy. And because my daughter's in school and I want to be here as much as I can, I basically am going out, 3 or 4 days, and then I'm home for 3 or 4 days, and I'm out for the weekends and Thursday through Sunday, whatever. Um, and it's hard because you just got to. You're either in a car for six
Oh, I
hours
know.
driving to the next gig the next morning, or you're getting up and you're in a small airport making a connector through Charlotte to get to Omaha or whatever. And that part is a grind. And I do an hour and a half, and then I'm doing these meet and greets later, so I'm wiped by the
Yeah.
end. I drink a lot. I can't. Not in an alcoholic way. I can't stop drinking. Um, so yeah, it is a grind, but I love it. I love the set I'm doing now. It's probably my favorite set I've done in a long time, and what we've done like 42 shows, I think, and we've got another 35 or so. I'm going to take the summer off, but then I'm back in September and October, and I'll go to Europe for a little bit. And I it's the thing that if we lived in some weird world where they're like, you can't
Pick
do
one
all
thing.
these things, you had to pick one thing, it would definitely be stand up. I would, the idea of like an evening of comedy about being a parent is, that sounds awful. And I have plenty of jokes or bits or observations about having a kid that I have because I have a kid, but I mean that's probably no more than 30% of my set, and it's really about other things. It's not about
No.
simply like my kid did this thing and da da da. It's really about the things around it.
You grew up in Georgia?
Yeah.
Football allegiances, college and pro would be what?
Well, pro is the Falcons, of course.
Okay.
I know this isn't, this is just audio, but I was gonna wear my one-off limited edition
Steve
Falcons.
Barkowski, who we rolling with? What do we got? What era?
No,
What are we
Matt
talking?
Ryan.
Matt
No.
Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, he was not the issue with that team,
It's true.
and he wasn't, and I got in a lot of arguments. Yeah, I was a big Steve Barkowski fan, and there hasn't been a whole lot to be excited about as a Falcons fan, but I'm cautiously optimistic about the
Yeah.
coming years. We'll see how Desmond does, and yeah, we'll see.
It's cool. Like the Falcons fandom is like you had the Super Bowl year in '99 where it was kind of out of nowhere and it was a dirty bird and all that. And then in 2016 with Matt Ryan, he goes and wins the MVP, and obviously the Super Bowl goes as it goes. We don't have to go down that road. It's funny you say Matt Ryan. He just retired, or he's taking a job at CBS. He might come back. He's going to be an announcer. And we had a debate on our morning show on NFL Network. Is Matt Ryan underappreciated? In my case, he's been wildly underappreciated because the first thing out of everyone's mouth is 28-3, how he lost Super Bowl. Not the fact he was an MVP and a starting quarterback in the league for 15 straight years. One of the hardest things to do is
I'm
durability.
sorry, he didn't lose the Super Bowl. The choice to pass
Yep,
lost
3 times.
the fucking Super Bowl. The head coaching lost. Defense. I mean, it's a team sport. But I would totally blame the coaching on that. I mean, that was crazy. We all sat there going, "What the?" And yeah, that's not Matt Ryan's fault. And you know, the only knock I can give Matt Ryan is he's not very mobile, right?
Sure.
And in the certainly the latter half of his career, there was a shift to that kind of quarterback and offense, and he it was like he straddled two generations in a way, but again, like I said, he was not the problem, or certainly not the sole problem of that team, and getting rid of him for Marcus Mariota is like, okay, why? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And you didn't get anything.
No, it's over.
It's yeah. I mean, he's underappreciated, certainly in that context.
Yeah. Did you have college football? I know it's huge college football time. You were what, Roswell, Georgia is where you're from?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't. I wanted to go to UGA, and all my friends went to UGA after high school, but I wasn't accepted there. It actually became the premise of a Mr. Show bit.
Okay.
That's a real thing. This guy Mo Phelps, who's dead, but he was the dean of admissions, and this whole thing became a Mr. Show bit where we quote him for real, what he told me about going to UGA, and because I drove up there to.
What did he say?
He asked me and this is after they won the Sugar Bowl, there were the championship with Herschel Walker and everything, and he's like, what do you want to major in? And I said acting, and he said acting. He's just the old Southern, the old Southern good old boy, a ball and a short sleeve polyester shirt, and he goes, what's acting but just jumping up and down on stage and yelling and screaming a lot. And what I
how do I respond to
that? And I just drove up there, and this is before Athens was all connected, so easily accessible. You had to go through these small towns, everything to get there, and pain in the ass. And I was like, I don't know what to say to that. There's no. I mean, I could say a logical response, but what kind of conversation are we going to have? I was like, okay.
Did you start listing actors? Like, there's this guy, Marlon Brando. Charlton Heston.
I mean, it was clear that this was kind of a futile thing, and we had another probably five minutes of talking. Thank you very much. Please consider my application, and then I left. I was like, well, they're not going to.
Yeah, how's that?
They're not going to pick me. And, ended up taking a year off and then going to school in Boston, which was just as well.
Yeah, it worked out. Just a couple more things, and one of the deals. It's not like a fun topic, but for our listeners who follow the NFL, like the writer's strike is going on right now. I saw you were out there on the front lines. Just top line, if you were someone to say, hey, give me the main points of this, of where the writers are coming from. And I know you've been you're not the voice of the writers union by any chance, or the writers guild, but just so that we know, if the viewers are like, where the hell are my favorite shows in the fall, what you guys are fighting for.
Yeah. I mean, very simply put, just fairness, a lot of this is not about, hey, I want, $100 an hour. It's really, it's much like the last strike in 2008. It's about new technology and new things that have come up since the last negotiation that nobody had planned for. The last time it was about DVDs. Like, are writers going to be compensated since all their work is coming out on DVD? And, akin to actors' residuals, and this time a big part of it is about AI and making sure that writers aren't replaced by robots, and it's just about fairness, not necessarily right now, but before, what we are looking for in the future, which has always been, it's 100% of the time you have to anticipate what is going to happen in 10 years from now, and be prepared for it and be compensated and just fair. It's just, I can't make it any more simple than saying it's about fairness. It's about paying. Without writers, there's no show.
Yeah.
All right. And I don't care how many computers you get. You're not going to write, Succession and Better Call Saul and Arrested Development and Severance and all these, Breaking Bad and Sopranos, and all these shows aren't going to be written by computers, and you don't have those things without the writer. And the writer is like the has always been like the least kind of celebrated, but arguably the most important part. Nothing exists without the concept and the idea and the story and the dialogue and all that. And we've never been compensated correctly. And this strike is just about getting to the bare minimum of fairness. And these studios and the streamers and the producers have literally hundreds of billions of dollars, and they're not willing to. It's the age old, problem, and so really it's about the future. It's not about right now. It's not about we want
sure
a mansion, and it's not about that. It's about protecting ourselves for what is going to happen 2, 4, 6, 8 years from now.
It's chilling because you say the AI thing, and I think a lot of people who aren't in the room are there like, hey, robot, they're not going to. And the response from the studios, apparently, whatever their union is, was, we'll revisit it once a year. And you're like, whoa, like that's not a, and that's a chilling response. That's scary. The other part is I was listening to a different podcast, and Danny McBride was on it yesterday, and he said, just out of curiosity, he was like, Chat GPT, make a Righteous Gemstone script. And he's like, and it sucked. He's like, it sucked, and it really sucked. And just so you know, the quality will not be what you want it to be.
Yeah, it's not even going to be close. Come on, it's not. It's so yes, it's about protecting ourselves from that, because the studio. I mean, look, this is a free market capitalistic society. They're going to throw stuff out there. It's why we have so much reality TV, is because of the 2008 strike, and it's way cheaper to produce, and you wouldn't have 19 versions of Vanderpump
Love Island or Vanderpump or whatever.
Yeah, Housewives. I mean, that may be satisfying and entertaining for some people, but other people want a story, and as I said, chat AI is not going to do it.
You and your wife are both actors. You guys are so in the thick of it. Like, do you guys still find time to watch other shows? Like, there in your, like, you're like Succession's tonight, like we're watching?
Yes, we are. My wife has to catch up from last week's.
Okay.
We'll watch tonight. We'll watch the last two, but Succession for sure. I just did season 4 of The Umbrella Academy.
Oh, cool.
Which I was familiar with as like a cultural thing, but I'd never seen it. I knew people loved it. I knew that it was popular, and so I started watching it, and like both my wife and I became hooked, and we're all caught up now. And then I got my sister hooked on it. My mom, who's 85, loved it. So we binge watched that. We watched Succession, Severance, waiting patiently for that.
Wow, patient. If that's your boy Stiller, tell him like, bro, like at some point, like let's go.
Well, the writer strike affected them too, but they're all pro writer. All these, almost everybody is pro on the writer side.
Yeah.
And Top Chef, big Top Chef fan.
Really?
Big Top Chef fan. Yeah.
Love it. All right, my last one. You've been asked about it before. I heard you with Mark Maron years ago, and I loved the conversation on it. And I'm telling you, I have Disney Plus. It was height of the pandemic. You're looking for something, bro. You might not want to talk on it. I love the Chipmunks movies, dude, and you're great in them, and you are clever, and you're fun. And I don't know if you run away from that talk or not.
No. I mean, it was.
You're great in them. You understand that, right? Like you're great in them.
I when I get hired for something, I will talk to the director, producer, whatever, and I assume, and I bring it up, like you guys are hiring me in part because I play around and I rewrite and I offer things up and I improvise and I assume that's what you want. And they were no different, and it was it wasn't a bad experience. It was just sort of an interesting thing, and everybody I worked with on the first two films were great. And then the third film was I don't know why. I mean, I'll write about it.
Tell me everything. I don't know this, so tell me. I just know, honestly, I know the first one and I know the squeakquel. Those are my jams.
Shipwrecked was
Shipwrecked? I never saw Shipwrecked.
Yeah, don't. It'd be weird if you did now that your kids are grown or whatever. You're like, I'm just hanging out, honey. I'm just going to watch Shipwrecked tonight.
So, what was the premise and plot? And tell me, take us through Shipwrecked.
It was my character. Well, first of all, if you watch it, know that there was this really blatant, gross product placement thing with Carnival Cruise Line.
Great,
so
perfect.
It takes place. The whole thing, or most of it, takes place on a Carnival cruise, in which the people that were on the actual people that were on the Carnival cruise did not know that we were going to be shutting down big sections of the cruise.
Oh, you guys didn't rent out the cruise ship? You did it while the actual cruise was going on?
Oh, yeah. And then I had this slideshow that I made. I used to do this, and it was called it's just fantasy versus reality. So you would see, I had tons of pictures of the extras in the set, the people who were acting, like they took over like the water slide and the pool. Yeah. There's drinks. And there are these hot, like 20-something, early 30s kids. And then you just pan over to the real man. It was just, oh boy. It was like the worst of Florida. And it was pretty.
How long was the shoot?
I think we were on the boat for 10 days. I think we were shooting for like 7 of those days. And then we were stuck on there and there was no, and that was another thing. One of the first things you get in your room, which is tiny. I don't know if you've been on a cruise.
I've never been on a cruise.
But there's, the first thing is this we got these little packages from production. There's no internet on the boat. And if the ship to shore calls, if you need to make a call, it's like $90 or something. And because I'm, oh man, you're kind of on this boat, which from the outside, you're like, this is huge. This is massive, but only half of that, what you're looking at is accessible. Like the rest of it is the inner workings of the ocean liner and all that stuff. So it's way more cramped than you might imagine. There's no, and if you're a guy like me who is one of those like, hey, are you famous? Like I get that a lot when I'm out, people don't know who I am. So they
recognize you, but they just, what do I know you from? One of those?
And then they just want to know, like, how do I know you from? I don't know. And, no, tell me. And so it was 10 days of that where it's like, I just would like to get something to eat, not run through my IMDb page.
I loved you in The 10. Yes, let's talk about it. Let's go. Yes. You wish it was that. Oh my gosh. All right. And then the movie wraps and you're like, I'm done with this, or you did another one after that?
No, I was contractually obligated to do 3. So I did. That was my last one. That was, but they also treated me very poorly. I don't know why. From the very beginning, it was very strange. I was in London to do the second series of Todd Margaret.
Oh, great.
For Decisions, Todd Margaret. I don't want to bore everybody with this. It's just
we don't have to. I just
like, and I'm producing the show. I'm not
the guy. You're the producer. You're the actor. You're everything.
Yeah. The only reason I say that is to say that I was responsible for about 60 jobs, and we had been asking for at least a year whether I was going to be a part of the third thing, because again, I'm contractually obligated to do 3, and they kept saying no, I don't know, and they weren't very helpful or forthcoming. And then I will never forget this as long as I live. It was like Christmas, and we're going to start shooting in about, I want to say 4 weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
Scripts are done. Actors are hired.
Yeah, we're in pre-production. We're already. We have.
You're in London. You're like, we're going.
I've been there for months, and we've got sets being built, and people are hired. And again, responsible for roughly 60 jobs, and a lot of these are friends of mine now. We've been doing the show. We did the pilot, then we did the first series, and now we're getting ready to do the second. And I was at Harrods with my wife. Mm-hmm. And which is kind of one of our little Christmas traditions. When we're in London, you go to the food hall, whatever. We're there, and I get my phone rings, and it says like the team or UTA team or whatever, and I'm like, oh, and I just had a bad feeling immediately.
You knew, like, the agents are calling on Christmas. What is going on? Yeah.
And I answered the phone, and it's David. I have she runs through my lawyer, my agent, and
the whole team.
So that's only good or bad news.
Yeah,
and it's never anything in between.
You're either in a Marvel movie or something is happening. Yeah,
it's either really good news or really bad news. And then my manager says, "Where are you?" And I explain. And he goes, "Okay, can you get somewhere? Can you sit down somewhere?" And I know what it is. I know
it's been looming in the back of your mind, like there's a chance.
Yeah. And it's a long, boring story, Peter. But it was awful, and they were so unpleasant and so weird. And then I get the script, of course. Oh, the other thing, I will just say this. So not only is the movie going, they want me to be in Hawaii for rehearsals on January 3rd. And I'm like, I can't, and my wife and I are going on this trip, right, to visit friends in Southern Africa who are in the Peace Corps.
Southern Africa?
Yeah,
going to the Peace Corps.
And I'm also like, rehearsal? Are you?
What are we rehearsing? I'm with a bunch of animatronic.
What are you talking? And then it became clear pretty quickly.
They're just trying to screw you.
They're trying to screw, yeah. And there was this whole thing with the trailer, like, everybody had a nice trailer, like a regular trailer, and I had this moldy, beat up like RV thing
on the ship or in Hawaii.
No, in Hawaii
for the rehearsals for Chipmunks 3.
And the guy's saying like, "That's all. There's a lot of production in Hawaii. That's all." And it's just clear they're with me. And it was. Was
Jason Scott in that one too, or was Jason Lee? Was he in that one too, or did he drop out, or he was in the third one?
Yeah, he was still Dave, and we had a bunch of scenes together, and look, I was professional, and I did what I do, and I tried to make it as good as possible. I tried to add things, and I don't know what. I'm not sure what their issue was. They never were very forthcoming about it. I have no idea. But then they withheld a bonus from me.
Oh, stop! Now we're getting to it. Now I'm angry. Yeah.
They withheld a bonus that I was supposed to get because contractually there was some language in there where I did something where I quote unquote disparaged the movie. It was strange. It was very odd, and it's the only experience I've had like that. I've never.
Yeah, you've been in a million things. You've never, you're like beloved. No. That's amazing.
It was
real quick before we wrap. What do you got going on now besides the tour? What else is shaking? And where else can we find you?
I mean, as I said, the tour is going to be that's taken up most of my time. Go to officialdavidcross.com. That'll have all the dates coming up. A couple places we're hitting again because they sold out really quickly. Good. And the set has kind of evolved since I was there. So like, I'm in Denver on Tuesday. A week from I don't know when this thing goes out, but
Yeah.
a week from today, and
The day after Memorial Day, you'll be in Denver.
yes, and
There you go.
that is the second time I'm in Denver,
Good.
and we've been doing. I'm going back to Chicago, and so you can take a look on there, and also Europe as well.
Any
Um,
movies?
no. Oh yes. What am I talking about? I just went to the screening last night. I know, I'm out of it. I'm very tired.
What's the film?
You Hurt My Feelings, and
Okay.
it's really good. It was that was the first time I'd seen it, and it was really fun to shoot, and it was really I enjoyed it a lot. It was cool. And my wife and I play a couple in therapies
Awesome.
in a my real wife and I, Amber Tamlin, play a couple that are in therapy, couples therapy with this guy played by Tobias Menzies. We're supporting cast. It's
Yeah.
really Julie Louis Dreyfus and Tobias Menzies, and it's a Nicole Holland Center film, and it's really good. It's really good. I
Awesome.
enjoyed it.
That's cool.
Um, so I don't know when that comes out, but that'll come out, and then I'm going to be on Umbrella Academy season 4. Super great experience, really great set, really fun character to play, and just what a treat and an honor to be a part of that show and that experience. They were great, and then also I'll be in Justified Primeval, which I don't know when that will be coming out,
Okay.
but I believe it's coming out shortly, and that's what I got in the
Pretty
pipeline
good.
ready to come out. And I'll be touring. I'm taking the summer off, but I'm on the road until July, and then I will be back out in September.
Great. Dude, you're awesome. I so appreciate you taking the time. I know it's the first time we're meeting. It's always awkward. Like, hey, good to meet you. We're going live on a podcast and an intimate thing about you. But I appreciate you so much for taking the time, and I hope you enjoyed it too.
I did very much, and let's go watch a Falcons Saints game together.
Yes, we will. We'll go watch Falcons Saints. Their new coach, Arthur Smith. I don't know if you're great dude, smart guy, and they drafted a running back, 8th overall. This guy, Bijan Robinson,
I'm,
who
I'm,
he
I'm
might be the best running back to enter the league since like Saquon Barkley. So I feel very good about the Falcons, but I always do in May. So that's my feeling of confidence for you.
always in May.